Are we clear now? You're one of us, or you're dead.
Fuck you!
I suppose that's a decision.
You know, I'm not the best when it comes to fighting games. Even worse when it comes to 2D fighters. But honestly, I didn't just feel like a superpowered badass. I felt like I was... This year is gonna be big for Invincible fans. Not only did we get an incredible 4th season with a promise of a 5th, 6th, and 7th, but the Invincible universe is making its way to the fighting arena in Invincible Versus. At first glance, you wouldn't be wrong to assume that this was just another cash grab, trying to hop on the recent wave of popular IPs getting a 2D fighting game like 2XKO or Avatar Legends. After all, that's exactly what I thought when I first loaded in. But after a few matches, it's safe to say that, yeah, no, this is pretty much what you think it is. There's a lot of things that Invincible Versus gets right, and a few that they don't. On the positive side, Invincible Versus stays true to its source material, more so than any other fighter based on a comic book or a show. Not surprising, given how the co-creator of the comics, Robert Kirkman, was highly involved with Versus. It was almost like experiencing an episode of the show, which, honestly, isn't that far-fetched of a comparison, given how short it actually is. I know most fighters aren't really known for their story, but with a source material as expansive and interesting as Invincible, I was kinda hoping for something that didn't take me less than an hour to complete. I'm not exaggerating when I say that an actual episode of Invincible was longer than the actual game. Yeah, there are always the typical individual character arcade modes to help scratch that itch, but even that felt underwhelming and had me desperately asking for more. It's a real shame too, because the story wasn't actually half bad. It was told in a way where even if you aren't a fan of the comics or the show, you still got a pretty solid understanding of who everyone was and what was going on. For the most part. But hey, as much as we love ourselves some good old story content, we're really here to beat the snot out of anyone unfortunate enough to challenge us in multiplayer. And, well, it's not for the faint of heart, to say the least. Invincible Versus has one hell of a roller coaster with the learning curves I've seen yet in a 2D fighter, and I used to play Guilty Gear. On the one hand, practice modes and tutorials gently ease you into introducing the ins and outs of a fighter. If you have no idea what frame data is, or character hitboxes, or combo strings are, Invincible Versus says not to worry, I had you covered. I honestly lost track of time every time I hopped into the practice arena with just how much new techniques and combos I learned from just understanding each character's hitboxes and info. On the other hand, however, it doesn't mean squat when you're constantly on the receiving end of a beatdown. Online matches are extremely unforgiving if you're not a diehard fan of 2D fighting. They claim to have skill-based matchmaking, until they constantly pair you up with opponents with over 200 hours of playtime and nothing left to lose. But I didn't mind though. It was all worth it just to see those small little interactions between fighters that made each and every fight feel like something ripped straight out of the comics and onto your screen. Plus, who doesn't love the chance to utilize Invincible's unique Viltrumite powers to hover over the arena and knock everyone around with your super strength? Or Omni-Man with his, also Viltrumite powers to fly across the arena and knock people around with his super strength. Or what about Lucian, who can do the same thing, but a bit heavier? Or Conquest, who can do almost the exact same thing, but even slightly different. Or what about Anissa, who can... yeah, you can see where this is going. Almost 1/3 of the entire roster was made up of either Viltrumites who basically do the same thing, or similar characters who can do the whole super strength and flying gimmick, but just a minusculely bit different. With all the unique powers and abilities in the Invincible universe, I would love to see the roster open up a bit more. Fighters like Adam E, Rexplode, and even Cecil show off how unique and enjoyable the various fighters could be with a bit more character diversity. Invincible Versus is a great fighter if you're a fan of the comics or hardcore 2D fighting. Most of the single player content leaves so much to be desired, and the multiplayer is extremely unforgiving for casual players, but with enough practice and perseverance, you too could also be. Invincible versus fights its way through with a 7 out of 10.